Hi, Coastal Carolina folks. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of my Spanish lab. So I know that we are discussing Mosaicos. However, since the course isn't ready yet, I wanted to at least get you into my Spanish lab and show you what it would look like for Mosaicos. The only difference is that the content will be flipped out. So instead of the e-text activities, etc., being for Nidos, they'll be for Mosaicos. So when you first come in, this is kind of your main dashboard. So from this homepage, you can pretty much get anywhere that you need to go. So when students log in, they'll see their calendar and they'll see what assignments are due on what days. If you are in here, you can also see students that have not passed certain activities, students who haven't been active in my Spanish lab for an extended period of time. You can also go to assignments that you need to grade, or if any students have sent you a message via MySpanishLab. So anything that you pretty much need to get to, you can get to from this course homepage. But what I'm going to show you is the course materials. So we can create your own folders instead of it being separated for each chapter. So we can easily create a folder by learning objective. So week 1, this learning objective, week 2, this learning objective. But just to show you what types of resources are available, and by all means go in and play with it on your own, but this is kind of just a brief overview. So I just clicked on the preliminary chapter. So as you can see, we have numerous activities, and I know culture is going to be huge in your department, so I want to point out this culture folder. And if you click on this folder, you will be brought to a video and activities that are associated with that culture video. So, and if you want to see the activities, so they have it so, before you watch it, during, while you're watching the video, and then after you watch it. So the idea is that you'd watch, that culture video, and then these are all the activities that are associated with that culture. So again, it's bringing that culture in while also really paying attention and being able to listen and understand Spanish. So I'm going to go back to my course materials. And then we also have the option, if you notice, to have it with captions. So this is great if you want students to also be able to read what they are seeing. Sometimes that can help, or read what they're listening to. So that folder is entirely dedicated to culture. And then, as you'll notice, all of our vocabulary activities and our grammar activities are actual interactive modules. So I'm just going to go into vocabulary. And then what's really cool about this is we actually have it so students can walk through that vocab or that grammar lesson in kind of a short presentation while it loads. So it brings you to that page in the textbook, and what's actually really cool about this is if you notice when I scroll over, it highlights. So I can actually go through the vocab and the grammar and listen to the actual words. And then so you see these little conversations at the bottom. I can listen to those as well by just clicking on this little audio button.
Me llamo Antonio Mendoza. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas?
So it really gets students to hear it. I know a lot of the time students are scared to speak because they're scared about pronunciation, etc. So this is a great way to not only go through the vocab, but to be able to listen to it instead of just reading it. And then what I'm also going to show you is I can actually just show you through here is if you click actually, you know what? I'm just going to go back here. So These vocabulary tutorials, we also have them for grammar, and I know, especially since you guys are trying to focus on the grammar and the vocab outside of class to increase talk time and listening in class, this is a great way to kind of drill it into students. So the idea is that this, they work through it and you listen.
El chico.
And
La chica.
And it takes about 5 minutes to go through, but the idea is that these vocabulary words, or for that section, you'll be going through 5 different activities over the same vocabulary. So you'll be listening to it, then you'll have to match the words, and it's kind of just a way to really drill it into students through repetition. And then these are all of the putting pretty much what they've just went over into use in that chapter. So we have everything from listening activities to, multiple choice. So, I mean, there's definitely, you can go either way with incorporating that listening aspect or the reading and comprehension. And then I'm just going to click on this. And what's really cool about this is you can actually hear the pronunciations. So again, this goes back to helping students really recognize, the vowels or the different ways that languages pronunciate their vowels. So some have them silent, and with English I may pronounce something, a Spanish word, because I'm used to pronunciating in English. So I mean, a ton of resources to help get students comfortable listening and speaking. So I'm just going to go back. And then we have that for the different vocabulary sections within that chapter, and then also for the grammar as well. Another thing that I want to point out is this readiness check. So a lot of students, you can't learn another language if you don't know your own language or your primary language. So this readiness check actually tests students on English grammar before they work on their Spanish grammar. So the idea is that they take the pre-test, and it will tell them how well they know those English grammar those topics that they're going to be covering in Spanish, and how well they know them in English. So then, depending on how they do on this pre-test, they'll be given pretty much a personalized study plan on different activities that they can complete in order to increase their understanding in English before they work on Spanish. And then they can take this little post-test afterwards. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is this last folder. And these amplifier modules are pretty much they're adaptive learning modules. So students answer questions, and then they state how comfortable or how sure they are that their answer is correct. And then depending on whether or not they get the question right or wrong, and whether or not they were highly confident that their answer was correct or not so confident, those questions will keep repeating, essentially. And then this practice test is with the study plan is, again, similar to the readiness checks, but except it's covering that specific chapter and now in Spanish. So they can take their pre-test to see, how much they've understood from that chapter. And they can do this before they come to class or before an exam. And then how well they, depending on how they do in the pretest, again, they'll get their personalized study plan to help reiterate what they've learned. And then they can take their post-test to make sure that they've grasped everything that they need. And then I went back a little too far. And then these are also would be really great for out of class. So especially with speaking, since you guys really want to concentrate on increasing, the talk time and getting students to speak well with the vocabulary and the grammar that you will be using. So this is, again, is a way for students to record themselves and submit it to you, just to get comfortable with speaking outside of the class and in class. So this is a great thing that they can do outside. So it's pretty much an oral exam or an oral homework assignment outside of class. And then the last thing I'm going to point out are these games. So I'm sure all of you know of concentration, but this is pretty much just another way for students to, again, learn what they've learned in that chapter in a more visual way instead of just doing assignments. So the idea is that they match up the flashcards with the appropriate responses. And if you've noticed in all the activities I've shown you, we've had this little box up here. So if students ever need more help, it's right there for them so that we can link them to the e-text. So it'll bring them right to that so it'll link them to that the e-text, and then they can go through and kind of help figure out that answer. We also have a glossary here. Just a ton of tutorials and other resources if they ever need additional help. And then you can always add in your own assignments. And just so you note too that these little pencils, that means that it's an instructor graded activity. So if you don't see this little pencil, that means it's an automatically graded. And then My Test is just where you can create your own test, and you can assign them through MySpanishLab, or you can actually print them off and do an in-class exam. So, and then just, I'm not going to go too in-depth in this, but this preferences feature, that is where you could, take off points for an assignment if it's late, or get into more of the nitty-gritty aspect of the assignments. So that's kind of MySpanishLab in a brief overview. I hope you were able to really grasp the multitude and diversity of assignments that are available for you and your students.